First up, let's not forget when this show was written. It was the height of Thatcher's reign, rising inflation, unemployment, and an elderly population that didn't fit in with the new fast-track, high-tech, greed is good ethos. Here was Victor Meldrew, a 60-year-old man, cast out on the scrap heap. But he wasn't content to just wait patiently for death. He was still alive and definitely still kicking.
Victor was never a pensioner. He was redundant and wanted desperately not to be.
You must be thrilled to bits.
Thrilled to bits.
Of course, the biggest problem of all was, how do you ever replace a man like Victor Meldrew? Well, basically, with this box.
Box?
Isn't it amazing what they can come up with these days? It does everything you used to do, except complain about the air conditioning.
Victor was a symbol of the middle-aged who were suddenly deemed surplus to requirements, and his reaction was to say sod off on behalf of us all.
So how big was it then, Mr. Meldrew?
What?
This box?
What bloody difference does it make how big it was? It was a box filled with wires and microchips, and it's taken my job. I'm now officially a lower form of life than a Duracell battery.
It's retirement. What do you do next? And also unemployment. And I think it hit a great peak of unemployment in England, where even quite younger people were stuck around the house.
Not only did Victor touch the mood of an ageing population, but another reason One Foot in the Grave is so spot on is that we have to admit that there is something of Victor Meldrew in all of us. And to be fair, who cannot fail to be enraged by junk mail, call centres, jobs, litterbugs and bad TV? Why should we just stand by whilst everything we hold dear is torn down around us? Because we're on hold listening to Vivaldi!
Victor is often misunderstood because he's seen as someone who just sort of rants for the sake of ranting. I think very often he is representing our views.
Victor Meldrew wasn't just the archetype old moaner. I mean, he moaned with purpose. He really did. He carried the flag for all of us who were disenchanted with modern life.
A man going quietly mad in the modern world, and I feel like that myself.
He says what we all are told and brought up not to say. He does not censor himself. So we have the jewels of everybody's darker side in what he says.
In every family, there seems to be a Victor Meldrew. He's either an uncle or a cousin or a father or somebody.
Oh, I think there's a Victor in all of us. And if there isn't, then we know somebody.
People think he's trying to interfere. He's not. He's trying to make the life better for all of us. And that's a very good premise for a comedy show.
That's it.
Where are you going?
I'm going down to the phone box to try and get through to someone helpful at British Telecom. I'm sorry. I seem to be uttering the demented gibberings of a madman.
Isn't he kind of bothered, though, by things that at some time everyone in their life has been bothered by? I mean, we've all had problems with the garage.
Good afternoon. You're...
Victor Meldrew, the Crimson Avenger. It's still on the ramp.
That's the truism of life in England anyway. You're always lied to. The biggest lies are builders' lies and mechanics' lies. They're bigger than anything. They always say, in fact, you know, I'll definitely have the car ready by Tuesday. So you're going on Tuesday. Oh, no, I said Thursday.
It's now 5 o'clock, and I can't help but noticing that my car is still stuck up in a ramp with a series of pimply youths in boiler suits and earrings underneath it, fiddling about mindlessly with monkey wrenches.
He is just there as, I suppose, Mr. Everybody. He happens to have limited tolerance of the kind of insanities and adversity that I inflict upon him, and which I hope is what sort of makes him funny.
The great thing was that a lot of sitcoms did and still do pretend that life is all jolly and marvellous and everything. Well, it was torture. Life was torture to Victor Meldrew.
When you have such an all-powerful, devastatingly well-written character like Victor, played with consummate ease by Richard Wilson, it would be easy for the supporting cast to simply disappear into the shadows. But One Foot in the Grave had a secret weapon. And this is another reason it's Britain's best sitcom. Annette Crosby. Not simply a foil for Victor, Margaret is a fully rounded character given life by a brilliantly understated performance from Annette. I mean, how else would we believe that she would spend 35 years tied to this living nightmare? Now, surely, guys, that's flat enough, isn't it?
She's one of those women who has remarkable resilience and patience. I'm not as forbearing. I don't have her patience. I don't have her tolerance. No.
She doesn't have a lot of fun, and then when she does, she kind of like the sun comes out when she flirts.
Everybody says to me, why didn't she leave him, for goodness sake? But, I mean, how many couples do you look at and think, why doesn't she leave him? Or why doesn't he leave her? You don't understand. It's something between two people that, you know.
They were in love with each other. It was a marriage that, you know, maybe had its troughs, but they relied on each other totally.
I suppose this is what it's all about, really, isn't it? When it comes to it, marriage, reaching 60 and spraying each other with Ralgex.
One Foot in the Grave could so easily have been a predictable sitcom about a whining pensioner. But as the series unfolded, a dark, almost perverse underbelly appeared. It lured the viewer in, making them feel comfortable before spinning their preconceptions around. On the surface, this looked and even smelled like a gentle sitcom, but was something far darker and far, far funnier. And that's another reason why it's so good.
I am a morbid person. I don't know how... I try not to be too morbid as a writer.
Are you sure she's all right?
Will you be quiet?
God!
I think it is a great English middle-class sort of sadness, and there's a hysteria amongst the wisteria or something like that, you know.
She's dead! Oh, no.
She can't be dead. She's a bloody health and fitness instructor.
That's another thing that I loved about it. It's not just another sitcom where we just sit down and we laugh a lot.
It's not easy. You see, I'm free. Oh, you are awful, but I like you. Stupid boy. Nice to see you. To see you nice. What do you think of it so far? Rubbish. Because you is a poofter. Like them or loathe them, a great catchphrase can make virtually any comedy show into a hit. One Foot in the Grave had a couple of strong contenders. What in the name of bloody hell is one of my favourites, but in a recent tabloid survey, the #1 best ever, most popular catchphrase ever was, well, you know the one, don't you? Now, let's have a think. What do you mean it's a stuff... No.
What's his catchphrase? I bet you're never sick of people saying that to you, are you?
In a sitcom, a catchphrase can be either the most annoying thing or the most endearing thing, you know.
You might be having a very peaceful day in empty countryside, and then suddenly, wafting across the beautiful scenery comes the dreaded phrase that someone has spotted you.
I think people get Tourette's around him, and it's out before they can stop themselves.
Including in the depths of Africa, in Gora Gora crater. We were watching these 5 cheetah, which was a very unusual sight. Just one truck, and then I heard it, and the cheetahs sort of looked at, off they went.
I don't believe it came from the number of situations in which you would need to say, I don't believe it, then it turns into a catchphrase. You know, I wouldn't imagine it's as calculated as thinking, right, we've got to come up with a catchphrase for this character. I wonder what we can get him to say.
Mr. Richard Wilson!
But actor Richard Wilson worked out ways to stop the audience from shouting out the dreaded words during studio recordings.
Don't start. Well, yes, you start laughing now if you want. I don't mind. Just like to say hello to you, so you get used to me and I get used to you.
Richard was extremely clever. He would always come out and he would talk to the audience to get out of the way, all the audience shouting, "Hello, Victor, I don't believe it." And he would quash all that at the top.
But I won't be saying I don't believe it, ever.
As if being mean to people wasn't bad enough, One Foot in the Grave committed the ultimate televisual sin by being really mean to animals, like these ones here. This inevitably caused the BBC switchboard to light up with complaints and postmen to groan with heavy bags of angry viewers' letters. But like so much of the fearless writing on One Foot in the Grave, the distress of harmless little creatures created so many belly laughs with all of us. Yes, One Foot certainly ruffled a few feathers when it put 1 or 2 pets in the grave.
People were outraged about animals, tortoises being roasted and cats in fridges. I had a lot of mail about the cat in the fridge, and some of it quite vociferous.
Margaret?
What's the matter?
Did you put a cat in our freezer?
I just used to dread every script if it had an animal in it. I thought, oh, great. How to win friends and influence people. Here we go again.
The bottom of the freezer cabinet. There's a cat in it.
What? A dead one?
Well, there's not play with a bloody ball of wool. It's frozen solid, woman!
Richard and I used to say to David, please, please don't write another animal in. Because we were the ones that got the letters. And written in red. If I ever meet you on the street, because the person who wrote it thought we had actually stuffed a cat into a freezer and frozen it to death.
Are you sure it's dead?
Well, if you think it's a pretty safe bet, wouldn't you?
Actually, there was one human character who might have suffered more than the animals. The naive, well-meaning but wholly irritating Mrs. Warboys. A friend of Margaret's, Mrs. Warboys always seemed to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. Again, very bad for her, but great for us.
Mrs. Warboys is an innocent. She's very eager to please. She's kind, but she's tactless. Morning, Mr. Meldrew. You're looking awful today, even worse than usual.
Yes, Mrs. Warboys, it's a joy to be alive.
She wants to do the right thing. It often turns out to be the wrong thing.
We have to be honest, she was rather a silly woman, I'm afraid, and deserved everything she got.
One Foot in the Grave has everything. Pathos, bathos, and that other musketeer. Just when you thought you knew what the show was all about, there would be a perfectly executed fart, testicle pinch, or hemorrhoid gag. There were beatings, bashings, crashings, and all manner of toilet jokes. The kind of jokes we all love. Another reason to vote for One Foot in the Grave.
It's probably a bit top-heavy with lavatory jokes, if I'm honest.
How do they make these things to stay up anymore?
Seeing as this is a competition, maybe I should rather smugly mention that our theme tune was written by a comedy god in his own right, Monty Python's Eric Idle. Ha! Beat that.
This is the little thing I wrote it on. I've never written a song on a keyboard ever in my life, and you'll soon be able to see why. We hit the on button, get a nice little habanero rhythm. One foot in the grave, I said I might as well face the truth.
Victor Meldrew was a great role model for older people because he voiced all the fears and the ludicrousness of everything that was going on in life. Absolutely perfect role model.
Gorgeous. The sort of day that actually makes you glad you're alive.